So I'm continuing the observation that an adjective modifying nouns in the construct must stand after the noun that they modify. So the good horse of the queen is literally the horse of the queen, the good one. The good mares of the queen is literally the mares of the queen, the good ones. Or you could have an expression, Davar Hamelech Hatov. Well, that's the word of the king, Davar Hamelech. But then what does Hatov modify? And here there happens to be ambiguity. It could modify Davar, word, or it could modify Melech, king. And so it could be understood, depending on the context, the good word of the king or the word of the good king. If you want to say the wife of the wise king, you say Eset Hamelech He Hakam, the wife of the king, the good one. Now, in this case, wife is feminine, king is masculine, Hakam is masculine. And by the way, notice that the article, because of the kamatzon or the het, ends up being a segol, according to the rules of adding articles. But anyway, that has to modify king, so that's the wife of the wise king. But if you want to say the wise wife of the king, well, then you'd have a feminine adjective following, Eshet Hamelech Ha-Hakama, the wife of the queen, the wise one. And here, because you have a hataf patah rather than a kamatzon under the het, you'll do the virtual doubling thing with a patah. If you want to say the evil words of the judge, well, words of the judge was divrei ha-shofet, and then the evil ones would be ha-ra'im, the words of the judge, the evil ones, but it's talking about the evil words, and therefore you translate it the evil words of the king. It should be mentioned that a construct chain can include more than two nouns. So you talk about the wife of the prophet of Judah, Eshet Navi Yehudah. Eshet is construct of Isha. Navi is the construct of Navi. The dictionary form has a kamatz under the noon. And then Yehudah is the absolute form at the end of the construct chain. So you could have it as long as you want to make it, but in this case you got two nouns in construct. The wife of the prophet of Judah. Now, in most cases, the simplest way of translating construct is to use the English word of. But there are some occasions where, in order to make more fluent English, you may want to rephrase that. So I'd always start with translating it of, but then if that sounds a little awkward or a little stilted, you can consider rewording it. For example, Beit Hamelech, the house of the king, well, that's expressing a possessive type of relationship. And so you could translate, instead of house of the king, the house of the king, you could translate it the king's house. Or in the case of Davar Adonai, the word of the Lord, well, depending on the context, that could be a kind of a genitive of source, you would call it in Greek, in which it's the word from the Lord, and therefore instead of word of the Lord, you could translate it the word from the Lord. Or you could talk about chesed, which is a very difficult word to translate. We'll call it faithful love. But chesed Elohim, the faithful love of God, could mean God's loyal love. or in the sense that God loves, in which case it would be what in Greek you would call a subjective genitive, where the word after the implied of is the grammatical subject of the verbal idea in the vicinity. But that same construct relationship could reflect what in Greek you'd call a objective genitive. If you take the noun for fear, which is yirah, a feminine noun meaning fear, reverence, or the like, in construct it becomes yirat. And so here's yirat Adonai, the fear of the Lord. But the meaning of that is that somebody else fears God. And so the word Lord is the object of the verbal idea of fear that's in front of the of, implied of relationship. And therefore you would call that a objective genitive. And then you have attributive genitives. Here you have Har HaKodesh, mountain of the holiness. But the mountain of the holiness means the holy mountain. You might call that a adjectival type construct relationship, an adjectival genitive. In other words, the mountain of holiness is as if you use the adjective the holy mountain. There is an adjective holy, but in Hebrew you'll often use this construct relationship using a noun of abstraction to have convey an adjectival type idea. You can also have genitive of material. So kisei is throne, kisei zahav is a throne of gold. And a throne of gold is clear enough, but what it means is a golden throne. Not simply color, which would just make it a adjectival type relationship, but of material, a throne covered with gold. And so that would be yet another way of doing it. Well, let me now go over the vocabulary and say a word about the exercises. The vocabulary, first of all, shema. Shama means he heard or he listened. Again, that's the form is a perfect, cal perfect. And when followed by lakol, with regard to voice, or elkol, this may mean to listen to or to obey the voice of, either lakol or elkol or bakol. To hear the voice of is meaning to listen to the voice of, even to obey the voice of. Av is father. It has an irregular construct of avi and an irregular plural of avot, whose construct is avot with a hataf patah. And then you have brother, whose irregular construct is achi, whose plural is achim, and whose construct is ache. And then you have isha, woman, or in context, wife. Irregular construct is eshet, looks like a siglet. And then the plural is irregular, nashim, and the plural construct is regular from that form, reduces the shava to kamat, the kamats to shava, and the hirik yod mem becomes sere yod. Bain, son, becomes bin if you have a makef, or bean sometimes with a makef in construct, son of. And banim is the plural, but the plural construct is banei. And then barakah is blessing or gift, birkat is the construct. And then bat is daughter. Banot with a noon showing up is the plural form, and then the construct is regular from that, banot. Bathsheba or Bathsheba uses the word bat in the construct. Bathsheba probably means daughter of Shiva. And then you have Yeshua, deliverance or salvation. You have kavod, honor or glory. And then there's mitzvah, whose commandment, whose plural is mitzvot. Perhaps you've heard of the bar mitzvah. That's when a Jewish boy becomes old enough to be considered responsible for keeping the law. And so they have a bar mitzvah ceremony. Bar is an Aramaic form of bin, son. Kol, as we've mentioned before, is voice or sound. The plural form is kolot. And then simcha is joy or gladness. Shem is name. And it's also the name Shem in the Bible. The word Shem, one of Noah's sons. His name means name. The construct is the same, Shem. Sometimes show up as a segol with a makef. And the plural is shemot. Shana is year. Even though it's feminine, it looks like a plural sometimes in the masculine, shanim. Although the feminine-looking plural sometimes shows up too, shanot. This shows up in the term for the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. There should be a space in that word. Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. And then finally he introduces Torah, law or instruction. So in the exercises you're going to get to practice some of these construct relationships that are introduced in this chapter. So example, the first one, the house of the prophet. So if you were to have the house of the prophet, well, of relationship is expressed by construct. So you take the word house, buy it, put it in construct, that's bait, and the prophet is hanavi, and so the form you would end up with would be beit hanavi, house of the prophet. And just a reminder that the article will go at the end of the construct chain, and so that the whole chain is definite. And then the next section will have you translate into English. So here you have lo shema'u ha avadim lakol hamelech, and here you have lo, not, and then shema, to hear, in the perfect, third common plural. So, and then the people that the subject of that is avadim, servants. So the servants did not obey or listen to the voice of lakol, didn't listen with regard to the voice of the king, did not listen to or obey the voice of the king. And he gives you a little bit of accents here and there, and so he points out that the munah accent is a conjunctive accent, that little bar thing. He's actually quoting this from the Hebrew Bible, and he happens to mention that in passing. Well, that's the homework for chapter 13, and that's about all we have time for. So, shalom, lehitraot. We'll see you next time.